everyone. This group will discuss the Anti-Graft and Corruption Practices Act RA 3019.
Section number 1, Statement of Policy. It is the policy of the Philippine Government in line with the principle that the public office is a public trust to repress certain acts or public officers and private persons alike which constitute graft or corrupt practices or which may lead thereto. Definition of terms. As used in this act, the term government includes the national government, the local governments, the government-owned and government-controlled corporations, and all other instrumentalities or agencies of the Republic Act of the Philippines and their branches. Public officer includes elective and appointive officials and employees, permanent or temporary, whether in the classified or unclassified or exempt service, receiving compensation, even normal, from the government as defined in the preceding subparagraph. Receiving any gift includes the act of accepting directly or indirectly a gift from a person under the member of the public officer's immediate family and behalf of himself or any members of his family or relative within the fourth civil degree, either by consanguinity or affinity, and on the occasion of the family celebration or national festivity like Christmas, if the value of the gift is under the circumstances manifestly excessive. Persons includes natural and juridical persons unless context indicates otherwise. Number 3. Corrupt practices of public officers. In addition to acts or commission of public officers already penalized by existing law, the following shall constitute corrupt practices of any public officer and are hereby declared to be unlawful. Persuading, inducing or influencing other public officers to perform an act constituting a violation of rules and regulations, duty promulgated by competent authority, or an offense in connection with the official duties of the latter, allowing himself to be persuaded, induced, or influenced to commit such violation or offense. Directly or indirectly requesting or receiving any gift, present, share, percentage, or benefit for himself or for any other person in connection with any contract or transaction between the government and any other party wherein the public officer in his official capacity has to intervene under the law.
Section 4. Prohibition of private individuals. It shall be unlawful for any person having family or close personal relation with any public official to capitalize or exploit or take advantage of such family or close personal relation by directly or indirectly requesting or receiving any present. Family relation shall include the spouse or relatives by consanguinity days after such approval to retain such interest. Section 7. Statement of Assets and Liabilities. Every public officer within 30 days after the approval of this Act or after assuming office and within the month of January of every other year thereafter, as well as upon his resignation or separation from office, shall prepare and file with the office of the corresponding Department of Health, with the office of the Secretary of the corresponding House, a true detailed and sworn statement of assets and liabilities, including a statement of the amounts and the sources of his income, provided that public officers assuming office less than 2 months before the end of the calendar year may file their first statements in the following months of January. Section 8. Dismissal viewed and explained wealth. If in accordance with the provisions of Republic Act Number 1379, a public official has been found to have acquired during his incumbency, whether in his name or in the name of other persons, an amount of property and or money manifestly out of proportion to his salary and to his other lawful income, that fact shall be a ground for dismissal or removal. Properties in the name of the spouse and unmarried children of such public official may be taken into consideration when their acquisition through legitimate means cannot be satisfactorily shown. Bank deposit shall be taken into consideration in the enforcement of this section, notwithstanding any provision of law to the contrary. Section 9. Penalties for violations. First, any public officer or private person committing any of the unlawful acts or omissions enumerated in sections 3, 4, 5, and 6 of this Act shall be punished with imprisonment for not less than 1 year nor more than 10 years, perpetual disqualification from public office, and confiscation or forfeiture in favor of the government of any prohibited interest and unexplained wealth manifestly out of proportion to his salary and other lawful income. Any complaining party and whose compliant the criminal prosecution was initiated shall, in case of conviction of the accused, be entitled to recover in the criminal action with priority over the forfeiture in favor of the government the amount of money or the thing he may have given to the accused or the value of such thing.
Section 10. Competent Court. Competence refers to the legal ability of a court to exert jurisdiction over a person or a thing, property that is the subject of a suit. Jurisdiction that which a competent court may exert. It is the power to hear and determine a suit in court. Jurisdiction also may be defined as an authority conferred upon a suit court. Example of judicial jurisdiction. First is appellate jurisdiction, in which a superior tribunal is invested with legal errors made in a lower court. Second is concurrent jurisdiction, in which jurisdiction may be exercised by 2 or more courts over the same matter within the same area and at the such time as the suit might be brought to either court for original determinations and original jurisdictions in which the courts holds the first trials in a matter. Section 11. Prescription of offense. The period of prescription shall commence to run from a day on which the crime is discovered by the offended party, the authorities, or our agents, and shall be interrupted by the filing of the compliance or information and shall commence to run again when such proceeding in terminate without the accused being convicted or acquitted, or are unjustifiable staff for any reason not imputable to. When and how penalties prescribed. The penalty imposed by the final sentence prescribes as follows. First is death and reclusion perpetua and 20 years. Second, other reflective penalties and 15 years. Third, correctional penalties and 10 years, with the exceptions of the penalty of arresto mayor, which prescribes in 5 years. 4. Light penalties in 1 year. There are 3 prescriptions of penalties. First is commencement of the periods of prescription. Second, interruptions of the period of prescription. Third is recommencement of the period of prescription. Recommencement. The day on which the crime is discovered by the offended party, the authorities, again, the agents of the authorities. Interruption, filing of compliance or information. The mere filing of compliance with. First is Chief of Police, Office of the NBA. Third is Office of the Provincial Director of PNP. Recommencement. When such proceeding terminate without the accused being convicted and acquitted or unjustifiable staff for any reason not favorable to the accused. Section 12. Terminations of office. Someone who has been terminated from employment is no longer employed and their job is ended. There are 2 types of job terminations. First is voluntary and second involuntary. Voluntary. Voluntary terminations of employment is a decision made by the employee. A voluntary termination includes resignations or retirement. Involuntary employment terminations is involuntary when an employee is terminated by the employer. Involuntary termination may be due to the employee's actions or behavior, in which case they are terminated for cause. How termination from employment works. Many employers have established procedures that managers must follow in order to terminate an employee. Typically, supervisors will be asked the documents any problems, develop a performance plan to address issues, and formally warn employees prior to terminating them. Wrongful termination. Illegal dismissal happens when an employer fires